The Nature of Stardust. Story by Amy Emberley. Illustrations by Dan Grant. Chapter 1. The Fire on Fletcher Avenue. Last week, I was working on this project in my room when I heard the sirens. At first, the noise didn't even make me look up because it seems like things are always catching on fire in our neighborhood. Even in the middle of the night, you can hear the sirens of the fire trucks getting louder and higher, and then slower and lower again as they whine out of hearing. They're not really getting higher and lower, though. It's just the Doppler effect. Ms. Escobedo explained it to Anthony and me. She said the sound waves get all stretched out between the siren and your ear when the truck moves, and that makes it sound like it's getting lower when the truck drives away. As I was saying, we got a nice demonstration of the Doppler effect the night of the fire. The sirens got louder and louder and higher, but then they didn't get quiet again, and I could see all the red lights playing across my ceiling. My little sister Lupe and I went downstairs to see what was happening. Lupe had a ratty old stuffed bear in her hand. She calls it pulpo, which means octopus in Spanish, but Lupe thought it sounded good before she knew what it meant. Lupe and pulpo practically collided with my mother and grandmother, who were curious too. The four of us stood in the kitchen trying to figure out what was happening outside, but it wasn't easy. We have only 2 windows in the kitchen, and one of them looks right into the windows of the house next door. The other one is over the sink, and it is pretty tiny. I boosted Lupe up onto the counter and tried to get her to tell us what she saw. She just said there were 4 fire trucks out there, and that was all she could see. So we all went downstairs. Lupe was wrong. There weren't 4 fire trucks. There were 7. And 2 more came wailing down the street as we stood there on the sidewalk. One of the houses on Fletcher Avenue was on fire, and not just a little bit either. Smoke was billowing out the windows, and it looked like little flickers of flame were spreading across the roof. There was an awful smell of vinyl siding melting, but still, no one wanted to leave. How could you? There was a sort of weird fascination in watching the house burn, as the whole neighborhood stood out there watching. It was 9:30 p.m., and then it was 10, and then it was 10:30, and 11:15, and still people stood out there and watched. After a while, it looked like the house was done burning. It was all black and sad-looking, and the vinyl siding was all warped and buckled from the heat. Then the firefighters went up onto the roof of the house. It was one of those flat-roofed, triple-story houses like my house, and they began to hack at it with axes and chainsaws. It was a weird sight. Like, why are those rescue workers destroying that house? Then we saw the fire wasn't gone, and all those little red flames had just been hiding, and now the firefighters had found them. Others went back inside to look for fire in the walls, and we could hear the whine coming from the chainsaws as they hunted the fire. It was kind of like one of those monster movies where you think you've gotten the alien off the spaceship, and then all of a sudden you realize it's only hiding in the ducts. That's what I was thinking about as I watched the fire. I wished there was someone I could tell about it. Lupe was standing next to me holding pulpo, but I couldn't tell her without having to explain everything about the spaceships, the aliens, and the ductwork. I wanted to tell someone who knew what I meant, and then I saw Anthony standing by the park fence watching. He was the one I really wanted to tell. I wouldn't have to explain anything to Anthony. He would just get it. If it were last year before he changed, then we probably would have made a comic book about the alien in the ducts, because that's what we used to do. Anthony's a really good artist who can draw.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?